The Porsche Sport Podcast, powered by Porsche Centre Leeds. Test drive the new Porsche Taycan and experience soul electrified.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The podcast will start.
The Porsche Sport Podcast, the only weekly podcast to bring you all the latest Porsche motorsport news and opinions. The Porsche Mobile One Super Cup, World Endurance Series, Le Mans 24 Hours, the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, Porsche Carrera Cup, the 24-Hour Series, SRO Championships, esports, and exclusive interviews. Make sure to subscribe on your chosen podcast platform. For more information and exclusive news, visit PorscheSport.com.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Porsche Sport Podcast, because today we have Porsche factory driver Kévin Estre, the 2004 European Karting Champion, 2018 World Endurance Champion, 2018 Le Mans 24-hour winner, 2019 Spa 24-hour winner, two-time Carrera Cup champion, but last but not least, the 2006 former Renault Campus champion. Kévin, welcome to the Porsche Sport Podcast. It's 2020 was certainly a strange year. What was it like for you as a travelling factory driver in the world which we now live in?
Yeah, thank you for having me first. 2020 was, I think, difficult and a bit crazy for everybody. Traveling was difficult. I stayed in Europe most of the hard time of 2020 and was traveling by car most of the time. So I did a lot of kilometers by car because it's easier than flying at the moment. And then just flew, I think, to Bahrain for the last race of the WEC in November, and then Kyalami, South Africa in December, which, is a bit tough because the flights are very little. There's not so much flights going away from Zurich, where I fly from normally. So I had to drive to Frankfurt and, COVID test and another COVID test and a quarantine when you come back. And, it's been a challenging year, but hopefully, it's going to be soon over. Let's see.
Let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so indeed. And you get plenty of time to enjoy your company car then with driving to the circuits.
Yeah, exactly. I had two last year. I had a Panamera Turbo S Sport Turismo, which was pretty cool for long trip, and you can put a lot of stuff in and everything. But I have to say, it's not my car really. I have a 911 Turbo S now, and it's exactly what I want and what I need. And I'm lucky enough to get one from Porsche for every year, and it's just a great car. I love it. It just makes difficult when you want to do a family trip. Somebody has to sit in the rear and be like this, but it's not my problem. I always drive. So it's good.
So have you got the latest? I assume you've got the latest Turbo S then.
Yeah, the 992. Yeah, just got it in September this year or last year. Yeah.
And how do you find that compared to the previous one?
For me, acceleration is crazy. It's 70 horsepower more than the previous one. I had two of them, the 991. Acceleration is very good. For me, cornering speed is very good. It's a little heavier, so you can feel maybe a little on the brakes. When you're very fast, you can feel that the deceleration takes a little more time. And for me, it's harder on suspension. It's a bit, it's not harsh, but let's say the Turbo S previously was very, very comfortable on the comfort side. And now I think it's more a bit of on the sport side. And probably that's why it has so good grip in the corners, maybe better. But therefore, the comfort is maybe a little less. But for a race driver, I think I'm okay with the sport side.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's an incredible. Certainly, I haven't had the chance. Kat's driven it, but I haven't had the chance to have a look in it. But on the autobahn, getting back and forward to the Nürburgring must be a handy tool for getting home to the family.
Yeah, it's nice. Normally, after Nürburgring or after Spa, you drive around at 7 p.m. or something, and I think my record from Nürburgring is 3 hours and 55 minutes, which is over 600k. So it's pretty good. but this car is great. Well, you can do this in Germany because, of course, the Autobahn is free, and also just in the night because there are not too much traffic. Because otherwise, during the day, it's a bit of another story. You take 6 hours instead of 4. But in the night, doing some top speed at 340 is nice. Gets you back home quickly. Although you have to refuel a few times.
Goodness me. No, it's not going to be a good day when they ask for the keys back.
No, for sure not. Let's see what I'll get next year. But at least I'm gonna keep this for this year. So let's see. Yeah. I'm happy to have it for sure.
Fantastic.
So should we move on to the?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was just going to ask, kind of really, starting from your start, really. So you come from obviously a motor racing family. So how did it start for you? What was your first experience?
When I was 4 years old, my father presented me for Christmas a go-kart, which actually he modified himself because at that time there was no kart which was small enough for me. So he cut the chassis and welded together again. And I started, to be honest, I was too small to go to the pedal. So I was sitting in the kart, holding the steering wheel, and my father was sitting on the top of the seat, on top of me, basically, going on power. And we were the first time out, it was in the night on the supermarket parking, just because I was small. And then I was going around, doing some corners. And then at one point I steer too aggressive and the go-kart went on 2 wheels and my father jumped to make sure we don't flip. And then he said, okay, now we don't drive anymore there. We just drive on racetracks when you're big enough to get the pedal. And I think it took me 6 months or something. And there it started. So quite early.
So you were allowed then to start that early on a track as well? Because I know now you have Bambino karts and things, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think, it was 92, 93. And I think I was getting a license somehow. And I think my father always tried to find some day where there are not so many people, or, find series where you drive every hour, 10 minutes alone, just small kids or something like this. And we were lucky enough to have a few tracks around where we're living. So it was great time.
So when did you know then you wanted to continue? Right from then? Or did it kind of hit later on that you wanted to really have this as a career?
I think I had the dream from very little. I can't remember when, but definitely, as you said, my family is a racing family. I've always had this, let's say, conversation of driver. We were watching Formula One races, every Sunday and race. Sometimes it was more of a Formula One and more of a single seater, let's say, dream for me and for my family, because it was more where they were focusing. But so from the start, I would say I knew from the start that it would be very difficult, but because we are not a wealthy family, but it was definitely the dream from the beginning.
Sure. And when did you change that path then from single seaters to then decide to go obviously GT?
In my second year of racing in single seater, I won the Formula French campus in 2006. Then it got me a prize money to go to Formula Renault France in 2007, and the year was not great. The team was not the best at that time. Then I didn't drive so well. I think we were in kind of a bad, it started not good and then it went bad. And that year, Jules Bianchi won the French championship, so it was very good level, of course. And at the end of the year, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the money to do the European Championship, and then I got the opportunity to go to Carrera Cup France, and I have to say, with the money I had, and I knew at that time, okay, Formula One is not going to happen, so I want to live from it, be professional, and this was the best opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And do you ever watch Formula One now? Do you still keep an eye on it? And
no, I still watch a lot. I have some guys I know there, and also, I don't know. It's a big part of my life, and it's still, the best place to be in motorsport for a race driver. It's the fastest car, and I think it's quite astonishing how fast they drive. When you look at the onboards, it's just crazy. So it's a lot of fun to watch. Although some Grand Prix are good, some are not so good. But I'm still very passionate.
Yeah,
some of them. Sorry, some of them could be quite helpful for getting Tommy to sleep.
Yeah, for sure. Me as well.
I mean,
they can be good.
Kévin, they said, of course, Porsche have recently had a huge announcement for going to enter the LMDH category to the top level of prototype racing and going for outright victories at Le Mans and Daytona and Sebring and places like that. I mean, just when we were talking about Formula One, to me, it seems that this new formula, if you like, is going to put sports car racing onto an even higher platform than it is already. I mean, tell us about Porsche's LMDH project. I mean, when did you start to hear about it, and when did you start to learn more about it and that it was going to happen?
I think that they've been rumors since very long. Since let's say since the FIA and SEO and IMSA wanted to change the regulation from LMP1 to something else. It's been this GT Plus rumor. Porsche was for sure involved. Ferrari. Everybody was kind of looking into the best possibility to get a good car and a good platform. And then it stopped kind of with this hypercar, because for sure Porsche was not going to go with the hypercar because the budget was too high and it was not really fitting. And then when there was again speaking about DPI or LMDH, then there was again rumors and Porsche was very much involved. So this we knew, but we never knew, if it was going to happen, if the board was going to sign the whole project. So we were always we want to know more, but then we were going through a wall and nobody was telling anything, so it's we didn't know much more than what the press knew, but it was definitely a great news, months ago or something when they announced it, and I think it's going to be great for motorsport when I hear at first all the brands which are there already, and for sure there are a few more coming, so I think it's going to be very, very, very good, and I hope I'll be part of it.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, you're the real GT star in the Porsche factory. You're winning all the big races and winning the World Championship and things. Will you be involved in testing the car or driving it?
I don't know. To be honest, at the moment, there's no plan on driver, or not that I know of, at least nothing fixed. But of course, drivers which are there in GT and driver which were there in prototype are willing to be part of it. And I think not only, I think many drivers called Formula One driver or whatever, or LMP1 driver or LMP2. So I think the market will be big, and it will be they will have some decision to have done from Porsche, but I hope to be part of it. In the end, as you said, I'm a GT driver. I did just one race in LMP2 in my life. It was my first Le Mans, and that's it in 2015. But I think I should be able to drive this car fast, but I don't know. And in the end, it's a Porsche decision, and I hope to be part of it. But so far, there's been no decision on drivers.
Well, I can imagine, because I think, if my memory serves me correctly, this LMP2 race was with Lawrence Vantor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think you guys in a pink pig LMDH would be perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it would be for sure good. I'm not sure if they will do pink pig again. They will wait maybe another 50 years, but let's see.
I mean,
might still be doing it.
It's a perfect time to mention it. I mean, yourself, Michael Christensen, and Lawrence Vantor won Le Mans in 2018 in this car behind me. Well, I picked this picture of the car, but behind me. Nice. I mean, explain the emotion of. I was watching the Porsche Endurance documentary for, I think, the third or fourth time yesterday, and there's a great shot of you starting the race for Le Mans, and they sing the Marseillaise and the Tricolore come over. Especially for you being a French driver as well, what's the emotion like of being the guy that starts at Le Mans?
Yeah, it's huge. It's the biggest emotion you have or for me at least in my career, definitely. The start of a big race is always very emotional and very stressful. Because you have the responsibility, and I think everybody which sees motorsport and watch it knows that in the start stuff can happen. Even if it's a 24-hour start, there's always stuff happening. I think like 3 years ago or something, there was a crash in LMP1 with Andre, and so. And in GT, it's the same. You have in 2018 was 17 GT Pro, full factory, fighting for the victory with drivers with knife between the teeth and wanting to win that race. And that year was the 70th year of Porsche, special livery, a lot of people, a lot of marketing, a lot of pressure. And actually, just before the start, one of the board member came to me and said, "Look, don't do any mistake at the start. We need to finish this race and win it, but don't do any mistake at the start." And I was like, "Ooh, okay." So you're starting P2 in, 1-2 first row Porsche, big race, 70 years, big livery, all new helmet, new race suit, everything. And you hear this and it's quite stressful. But I have to say, I think I put the helmet, drove the formation lap, and it was gone. And it was just a normal race. And I think we had a nice fight with Jimmy to start with over 10 laps. So but it's the start moment or the formation lap or the grid with the Marseillaise, as you said, the helicopter, dropping the flag and then driving, flying over the grid like this. It's just unbelievable.
How do you deal with that pressure? Does it get easier as time goes on?
Maybe a little bit. I used to be quite bad in go-kart. I puke a few times in my helmet on the grid.
Oh.
So because of pressure in my first international race in Italy. So I know, I worked on this and obviously with the experience, it gets better and better. But definitely you don't feel well. You try to think about what you can. And actually, if you're on P2, it means that the car is fast and you should be fast enough, but still the pressure is there from the event only, not only from starting, but just the event is so huge and so important for everybody. So much work, investment in time and money and everything that you have to perform. But also if you do a mistake, you're gonna regret it, and a lot of people are gonna point the finger to you. So it's definitely a hard thing mentally.
Yeah. Well, mental performance is such a big part of it, isn't it? As well as your physical ability to deal with that. For sure.
Especially Le Mans with the speed, you approach the corner. It's not everybody says Le Mans is crazy, but in the end, the track has a lot of straight line where you can relax. It's quite okay. You just have to watch the mirror and make sure you don't do a mistake in traffic. But when you arrive in Indianapolis corner or Porsche curves with a GT approaching the corner with, or taking the corner with 220, 230, 240 kph, and the car is weighing 1.2 ton, and it has not the downforce from an LMP, and you just turn in and you move a little bit, and this is the pressure you have during the race because of the speed you approach the corner is different than any other track, really.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's in terms of one of my heroes, Kévin, Jim Clark. He used to race at Le Mans and couldn't quite enjoy it as much as he did Grand Prix racing, because at that time, even though it's still the same today, there was quite a broad range of skills of driver. Obviously, you have the platinum drivers like yourself and Michael and Lawrence and all the other GT Pro guys. Then you have a lot of amateur drivers taking part as well. What do you have to do as a driver to kind of study what the other drivers are doing and knowing, is it a pro, is it an am? Is there someone who tells you on the radio? How do you handle that challenge?
Well, in Le Mans is 60 cars, and from the 60 cars, which car has good driver and let's say an experienced driver.
Yeah, sure.
Well, although in Le Mans, to do Le Mans, you have to do a simulator day when you do Le Mans for the first time, prove that you're fast enough, blah blah blah. But still, there are every year some drivers, which is not really the speed, is the speed plus the decision they make in traffic, or being petrified and looking in the mirror, doing wrong lines and stuff. And this you figure out during the test day or during the practices.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have anybody telling you, but I have to say when you approach a GTM, which is normally 2 seconds slower than you on the car is 1.5, 2 seconds slower than you on the lap, and you approach him and gain 15 seconds on him, then you know that it's a slow driver, so you just take care and make sure he sees you when you overtake. But I have to say, since 2 years, the worst or the most difficult for us are amateur driver and LMP2 cars, because the cars are much faster than us, but the drivers sometimes are not, driving fast with these cars. And when they accelerate, they just go, and then they brake early. We are like fighting with two different cars, and this is the most dangerous, I have to say, in Le Mans.
And when you compare that to the Nürburgring, when you have what feels like 15 different classes of car with many different kinds of driver. You could have me in a Renault Clio and you're in a GT3 Porsche. I mean, Nürburgring to me is, when I watch you race, I think it's just amazing to watch. I mean, around the Nordschleife, this is another challenge entirely. What is that like from your seat?
This is different. This is a different world. At first, there we are with the GT3, the fastest class, so we just overtake people, which is different to Le Mans, where we are the slowest or the second slowest. And they are, during a VLN race, there are sometimes 220, 230 cars on 25K. Le Mans has 60 cars on 13K, so it's just crazy. And as you said, there are some Renault Clio or Polo, or there's even a Dacia Logan, driving. It's crazy. No. Yeah, so the speed difference is huge. But there, I have to say, as a beginner, you need to drive a permit. You need to do a lot to be able to race. And the level, even if some drivers are slow and also driving slow cars, there are some great drivers in a Renault Clio. They can't, they are just slower because the car is slower. But the level of driving and the decision and the lines in the traffic are generally very good, because people have to drive a lot before getting to race there, which is I think very important on this track, especially because it's a dangerous track and the speed difference is huge. But it's just it's crazy when you watch I think a few days ago I watched on YouTube, there is a video of my first lap on my first stint in 2018, I think. So first stint, when you get the lap guys, there are a row of 20 guys, trying to fight and everything, and you just go around and try to find your way, and it's quite crazy. But there you feel that these guys sees you, so it's nice. When they don't see you, then there's a big crash, and it's painful for everybody. But it's happening, not so often, luckily.
Helps when you're in the Manthey car; it's easier to spot with the green.
Also, for sure. Well, it's definitely an advantage when you're in the Grello, when you're in the green and yellow Porsche. People knows that you are a GT3 car, that you are one of the fastest car on track, so they see you. If you are in a white Porsche, they don't know if it's a Cup car, if it's a Cup MR, a GT3, a Pro, an AM. So for sure, the Grello is there a big advantage in traffic.
I think.
Tell us about. I'm sure you've probably been asked this loads of times, but tell us about your move in 2019 at Nürburgring. Half on the grass. I mean, did you think, right? I'm just going to try go through anyway and create a space? I mean, how did you plan that?
Obviously, the thing I heard, the straight on the Nürburgring is wide enough to have, I would say, 3 cars easy, 3 cars wide easy, but 4 even. And it was fighting for the lead, I think, at hour 4 or something like this. And I just took a great draft, and the straight is 3 kilometers long. So you when you take a draft, then at one point you come pretty quick. And then there was a slow car in front of us. So the Mercedes in front of me, Dirk Müller, then and then a small BMW, and we were catching. He was on the right. And I knew the Mercedes would overtake left. And I knew if I was going to go between them, he was going to, squeeze me, and I won't have a room. So I just went left and left and left. And he continued to go left, although there was maybe 10 meters between him and the BMW. Yeah. And I at that time you take the decision, okay, either you lift because I had no room to go back to the right, or you just stay flat and hope that he opens at one point. And I took this decision, which was in the end the right one, but could have been bad. And yeah, I was beside him. He kept pushing me into the grass. And then when I was just the middle of the car in the grass, at that point, I thought, oof, if he doesn't open now, I'm going to crash. Yeah. But then he opened, and then I kept, I went slowly back to the track and I overtook. But it's a small decision you take. Luckily, it was right this time, and it made good footage. But it can go wrong, and then you are the idiot.
But you're known for being quite an aggressive kind of attack kind of driver. I mean, is that something you intentionally try to be with other drivers, or is this just naturally your way?
Yeah, I think it's my nature. I think I'm quite nice outside the car, and let's say I try to be a nice guy. But when I put the helmet, my father always told me, let's say earlier in my career in go-kart, I was always too nice. I was never going to the contact, or I was going, if the guy was closing, I was, braking more and not overtaking. And then a lot of time my father told me, don't be too nice. You're fighting on track. If you fight for position, fight really. And I think it goes through. And I think now is my nature driving. I definitely don't try to do the aggressive move. I just try to overtake with the ability I have and with the confidence I have in the other driver as well. Because these overtakes you can't do with some driver. In the end, you never know what he's gonna do. But if you assume he's a professional driver fighting for the victory, at one point he should open because he's not crazy. And if you assume this and you get the right amount of risk, then you go through. But I had a few times where it didn't go, and then you are the guy which is too aggressive, which lost the race. But luckily, it's happening less and less, and maybe I lost a few tenths throughout the year, but I gained a little bit in finding the right thing to overtake.
Yeah, because I was watching your onboard at Spa, the wet stint you did. Yeah. It was fascinating to watch, obviously, as a driver as well, how you would really create gaps yourself by sort of braking at the same point as them and just gently rolling the brakes off and kind of just forcing your nose in. So they had to. It was really fascinating. I mean, how did you get that edge that day?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I think there is some days where you just. On top of your game, of what you can do, and you have the confidence and everything works. And in that race, I just felt great. I had a great car, and I had the confidence. Everything was working, and then I found the right amount of risk, the right amount of confidence to get the overtaking done, and also when the team is doing a good job, when you have, teammates which are giving you confidence, you have the right tire pressure, everything together makes a good race or a good stint. You can't, as a race driver, if you have bad tire pressure, you're going to be 2 seconds off in the wet, and that's it. And this you can't compensate. You can be as good as you want. So I think everything has to work, and sometimes when it works, then it can make some good stints.
Yeah, it's brilliant to watch. Just watch that onboard all day. Really good.
Thank you.
Looking ahead to the next couple of weeks, Kévin, you're off to Daytona. A little bit of a return to your earlier days with Porsche, with the factory to IMSA. Tell us about your thoughts heading into this appearance with the new WeatherTech Porsche team in GTLM.
Yeah, it's cool. To be honest, I'm really happy to be back in Daytona. It's been 3 years now that I didn't do this race because of different reason. But really, really nice to be there with Leeds, Bruni, and Cooper McNeil. It's definitely let's say. It's going to be a challenge because we fight against all pro factory drivers in GTLM, and Cooper is definitely a great driver, but he's not a factory driver. Yeah. But we're gonna try, and having a Porsche GTLM in Daytona is definitely good for the championship. I think after Porsche pulled back for this season. Unfortunately, I think it's good for the fan, and also it's nice to do this race. I've not been lucky so far. I've done it a few times, but somehow always had small issues. So hopefully this year we can go through without issue, and with a bit of luck we can do a good result.
And of course, you're likely to find yourself out on track racing against an old colleague, Mr. Tandy, in the Corvette.
Exactly.
Are you looking forward to that one?
Yeah, for sure, because I think racing Nick is I love it. I really like it. We did the Porsche Super Cup together, and I have to say we had a few moments fighting. We had a few contacts, but Nick is a great racer, and then a big talent from our generation, probably the best or one of the best driver. So I think he's gonna be for sure fast in Corvette, but I hope I'm gonna show him that our old Porsche is also great, as he knows.
Tell him what he's left behind. I mean, the new car, the new RSR 19. I was there at Silverstone, the first race where it came out, and it sounds completely different to the old car. I mean, what are the performance differences between the two? We know that Porsche never go backwards, but tell us a little bit. You've driven both the cars and won in both of them. What are the comparisons?
The RSR 17, so like the pink pig, which is on your background, was the first mid-engine Porsche race car since a while, or Porsche 911. So it was a big step compared to the old RSR on aero wise and driving wise, but there've been for sure some, not mistakes, but some stuff in the development which has been maybe left behind, or we realized later, okay, this has to be done that way. And then when we developed the 19, we took all the little stuff which were not perfect on the 17 and tried to implement on the 19. And I have to say, Visor, Porsche, and Manta and Core did a great job at building this car, because it's just fantastic to drive. Really, the cockpit is just perfect for the driver. We had month before the car was produced, we had a 3D print from the steering wheel to have in our hand. See if the thickness, if the buttons are in the right direction, position, if we can move this. Every driver had something to say. So all the details are great. But it has good chassis, so therefore the BOP is always on the low side on the top speed and acceleration, which is on the lap time good, or it's equal. We have a good lap time, but it makes the racing harder. It's very hard to overtake. So we had to understand this. Also, IMSA and WC had to understand where our performance has to come from to produce good racing, because to start with was very tough. If we were stuck behind an Aston, even if they were on used tires, we were new, we couldn't overtake, and we're losing 30 seconds during the stint. So this took a few races, but in the end we had, I think, great performance and good package. And the sound, as you said, is a 4.2 liter. The 2017 was a 4 liter. But the 19 car has side pipes, so very short pipes like this behind the driver. One is behind the driver and the other one is on the right side, and it makes very very different sound, very loud in the car. Is insane. We had to we developed special earplugs. We had some isolation foam in our balaclava. We had the microphone in the balaclava instead of in the helmet. Otherwise, the engineer wouldn't even understand us. It's very loud. But there might be some changes. So Daytona might sound different. So
okay, well, that's exciting. That's very exciting, indeed. It's well, I mean, it's interesting because in IMSA last year, the car had so much pace, but there was just tiny little mistakes in the pits and little small things. But the pace was right there, so it's going to be very exciting as well. Especially, it's been a while in GTLM since a proper private team have gone to race in this category, as you mentioned, which is amazing. The McNeil family are a big, how do you say, supporter of the sport, you could say.
Of course, being sponsor, title sponsor of the championship, and being there since a while, and always having some cars running. So it's great for the sport that you have some family like this, which are investing time and money in this sport. But as you said, it's a private team with a lineup with a silver driver in it, where everybody has all platinum. So it's for sure it's going to be a challenge. But I think Proton Proton Competition, which is the team taking care of the car, has a great experience from the RSR, and I'm sure we're gonna have also some good support from the guys we trained IMSA last year with some base setup and stuff. We should be all right.
You have lots of your colleagues in GTD as well to let you by when you come through as well, which is
important. I had a few texts already. Don't flash us too often. I'm gonna come and see you if you don't let me by.
Now, of course, Porsche have an amazing back catalogue of classic race cars, or what we would now call classic race cars. I mean, do you get the chance to drive many of them?
The only chance really which we have is the Rennsport reunion in Laguna, which was the last one, I think, in 2018 actually, or 19. 18 or 19, no 18, and there was crazy, a lot of Porsche, a lot of stuff, but there you need some connections to drive the right car, to be able to drive, a bit of luck, and also work in advance 1 month before, calling this guy, can I drive your car, can I drive this car, calling the museum. And there you can see that the older Porsche factory driver are better connected. But no, I just drove an old RSR in Rennsport, but some guys drove some 962 and the GT1, and it was great event. But so far I haven't driven really all the car I wanted. But actually the deal was, when we got the Pink Pig livery for Le Mans, we all said to Frank Walliser, which was our boss at that time, we said, okay, Frank, but the deal is if we win Le Mans with the Pink Pig, then we drive the 917 Pink Pig in Rennsport. And he said, I will see. But then we figure out that the Pink Pig is not able to drive anymore, or at least not after a big restoration because of the chassis. They had a crazy aluminum chassis. And so this was a shame, but hopefully one day would be nice.
You need to speak to your new teammate Cooper, because his family have a very impressive collection.
Exactly.
I'm writing a book about the RS Spider just now, and I believe Cooper's father has more than one RS Spider. He has them to spare, so you could ask him.
Maybe next Rennsport. It's good to have these kind of teammates sometimes. Yeah, let's see.
He'll be saying no passing on the grass in this one, though.
Yeah, maybe. There's no grass in Laguna anyway. It's only sand.
Dust,
so.
Yeah. Kat?
Yeah, sorry.
Have you got more?
To be honest, I was going to ask more about fitness side and things, honestly, like how you prepare in that sense. So obviously I know the aero is not quite the same as like a Formula One car, but I mean, how do you prepare? Because especially doing endurance stuff as well, it must be not just mentally, but physically incredibly fatiguing, and also the temperature in the cars as well.
Yeah, I have to say there, every driver is different. When you look, for example, Lawrence Bantor, he's going out on his bike doing 150K every 2 days, and that's definitely not my case. I don't feel that I need these. Every driver needs different stuff, and I'm not really the endurance type of guy which goes for running for 1.5 hours. Or I run because I have to run, but I'm not really a runner. And the bike, I enjoy it, but not every second day. So this is not the two things I do most. I have a coach here 5 kilometers from me, and now I work with him since 4 or 5 years. And after a while, you know your body, you know what you need, you know what you need in every car, or some special track, for example, Sebring, with all these bumps you get. Every year I get sore hands or forearm, because you have to hold the steering wheel so tight. So every time 2 months in advance before Sebring, I train the forearm and let's say the hands bigger, more than the other races.
Sure.
So I do a bit of everything, but let's say more focus on what I actually need. And yeah, as you said, we don't get any the same amount of G-force as Formula One or LMP1 cars, but still a little bit. But the neck, for example, I never had to train because I think we drive often enough, and I think driving train you. But with the Corona and 3 or 4 months doing nothing, then for sure 2 months before I restarted, I started to train the neck because I knew 4 months I didn't have any G-force because I couldn't even drive my Turbo S outside. We were stuck inside. So and yeah, so there I started to work on the neck, which I haven't done before. And yeah, as you said, every race is different. Also, the race cars, we are lucky to drive in championship where, let's say WC, you need an AC in the car. It's obviously not 20 degree, but it can't be over a certain amount of temperature, which is 31 or 2 degrees under the outside temperature, something like this. So it's never really warm. But it used to be in, let's say 3 years ago, the GT3R in Spa 24 was just crazy. We were just doing single stint. We couldn't do any double because we were gone and very hard, very difficult to drive. So I have to say this, since I started endurance already, it's maybe 8-9 years ago, the cars have done a step and make your life easier. We go faster and faster, but inside the car, with the paddle shift, with the AC, with the seat perfect for you, this makes quite a big difference on the physical side.
Wow. Absolutely. Yeah, it's evolved so much, hasn't it? You almost forget how much it's evolved in that way as well, because obviously you're always thinking about performance, but for the comfort for the driver, it is getting at least a little bit easier, I suppose.
Sure. My first Daytona was with a 997 Cup car in this GT America, with the open window, 4-liter engine, RSR gearbox, but the shifter, and you had to do heel and toe, and it's you were sitting a bit like in a street car, and it's not 30 years ago. It's just it was 2012. So for sure it evolved a lot, and there you needed proper fitness in the arm, because if you were not pushing the lever enough, then you were breaking the gearbox. If you were not blipping correct, you were breaking the gearbox. And this kind of stuff was very important to just survive the race and make sure you go to the end, which is now a lot easier with clicking right or clicking left.
Yeah. Do you miss having to do heel and toe and that? Because there is an art to that, isn't there? Especially, like you say, being consistent with it and getting it right every time. Do you kind of miss having to do that, or is that not really part of it?
I have to say I miss it. I miss it sometimes, but for 24 hour, it, as you said, makes your life easier and be maybe more consistent or concentrate on other stuff. Although heel and toe in the end was more of a automatism, but I have to say one of my favorite car was the 997 Cup, and you had to do the heel and toe, and you had to brake perfectly and do a lot of engine brake. We were around 10,000 RPM on the downshift, which was crazy. The engine guy was always coming to you. You did 9,900, whatever. Sorry. And this was definitely a lot of fun. And I miss it a little bit, but when I'll get older, I'll get a 997 Cup and drive around in a historic car with some white hair and old racing suits.
You'll have to come over here and do Goodwood.
Exactly. That'd be great.
I was watching you're talking about the gear shifting. I was watching an onboard of you and Nicky Team having a great battle in the 997 Cup, and I thought you were going to pull the gear stick out of the floor.
Yeah, let's say it depends. When I was on the aggressive mode of trying to overtake and everything, I think I was just aggressive everywhere, also with the gear shift. But there was a lot of these battles. Yeah. It was a lot of this battle with Nicky. We had a crazy year in 2013.
That was good. Now, finally, Kévin, this is a question which we ask all of our guests, and we call it the Racing Genie, and it's like a kind of fantasy question. So, if you could choose any race in history, in any car with any co-driver, who would you choose? To give you an idea, Earl Bamber chose Daytona 500 with Dale Earnhardt in a NASCAR, which shows you his personality.
Sure.
And we had, I can't remember, we had Jörg Bergmeister and Patrick Long on. I can't remember what they said now, but you can decide any car you want, any race, and any co-driver.
I would say Le Mans 24 with a 917. Maybe not the Pink Pig, but another one. But definitely a 917. And I would say Jackie X. And maybe Henri Pescarolo, because he's just he just won so many times, and he's just a big monument of the French. French racing. But at that time, actually, you were two drivers. But I would take a third one because it makes your life easier.
Definitely. You can tell you're competitive. When I met the Wayne Taylor and Jordan and Ricky, they all two of them chose Tom Christensen, and the other chose Mario Andretti. I said, clearly it's important to win.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we do this to win, so or at least these guys, this Jackie X, and they are really legends. And I think it was a different time, and I to be honest, often I think I wish I would have been born at that time and drive these cars and this kind of motorsport. But maybe the backside, the downside is that there were a lot of people dying and missing their legs and everything. So this is for sure a big downside from this era. But I think when you look at the cars and the racing, it was just something different. But definitely fantastic era of motorsport.
It definitely was. Well, Kévin, it has been an absolute pleasure to have a chat with you here on the Porsche Sport Podcast. Thank you so much for making the time to chat to us, and we wish you all the very best of luck for Daytona and the rest of the season. We'll be cheering you on.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The Porsche Sport Podcast, powered by Porsche Centre Leeds. Test drive the new Porsche Taycan and experience soul electrified.